Okay, so this is a question that I get asked a lot, and that's, should I buy a new car or should I buy a used car? And the answer to this is it really depends on you, okay? And what I mean by that is it really depends on what you value. Now, I'll give you the best financial answer in a minute, but sometimes things are emotional. Like, I know that I've bought vehicles that I actually didn't like, and I did not enjoy owning them at all. And because I didn't enjoy owning them, I didn't get the pleasure out of it. Now, yes, I got utility, I was able to drive the vehicle, it was fine, but I didn't enjoy it. Now, if that's important to you, then there's other things at play other than just what's the best financial decision, okay? And I can't speak to that because everyone's different. And I will tell you that the vehicles that I've bought with my head, I've enjoyed a lot more than or less, I should say, than the vehicles that I've bought with my heart. The ones that I bought with my heart, I enjoyed a lot more. Didn't mean that I had less problems, right? The ones that I bought with my heart tend to have more problems, and it tended to cost me more. But that was important to me. But everyone's different. But here's the real thing to think about, okay? From a pure financial standpoint, when you buy a vehicle, if it's a new vehicle, here is what you're paying for, okay? You are paying for the markup from the factory, you're paying the markup from the dealer, and then you're paying the markup from any other part of that process, right, that gives you that new car. Now, but why do people typically buy new cars? Other than just preference of saying, well, I want the car in the color that I want with the options that I want, whatever. The real thing that most people say is it's reliability, it's peace of mind. If I buy a vehicle and it's brand new, I know that it's in good condition because it's new. I don't, people are worried about how other people have driven the vehicle before them. So it's brand new. It's got that new car smell, right? And the other thing, the biggest thing that I hear people say is warranty, okay? It's peace of mind. You know, if I buy the vehicle, then if anything happens, I just take it back to the dealer and then they fix it, okay? But here is the thing. If you buy a brand new vehicle, most vehicles are going to lose 40, 50, 60% of their value in the first 3 years. Most people keep a vehicle for 2 to 3 years, okay? Most warranties last about 3 years. Some do 5, but 3 is a pretty average warranty period for most vehicles. And you see a lot of people buy a new car and then right before the warranty expires, they sell it back to the dealer or they trade it in or whatever. So ultimately, what you have to decide is, from a pure financial standpoint, is what's going to cost you more. Okay, so for me, I have never owned a new vehicle. I have never once bought a new car. Now, why is that? It's not because of money that I couldn't afford to buy a new car. It's because the amount of money that I would have lost in depreciation far outweighs the cost of repairing or potentially repairing a vehicle that's a few years old. Okay, if you buy a brand new vehicle, pretty much anything that's a decent car, you're going to spend, say, $40,000. Within 3 years, it's going to be worth about $20,000. So that's approximately $7,000 a year in depreciation each year. And that's your total cost, obviously, because, again, you've got all of your repairs covered. Sometimes maintenance is also covered, right? That's $7,000 a year. So let's think about it. If you buy a 3-year-old car that's out of warranty or a 4-year-old car that's out of warranty, what's the likelihood that it's going to break down? Pretty small. I mean, cars these days are very, very reliable. It's not like it used to be where cars are breaking down all the time and leaving you on the side of the road. In fact, all the cars that I've owned for the last probably 10 years, I mean, it's very rare for them to break down. Yes, there's issues, but generally speaking, they're pretty reliable, right? They've gotten to the point where there's minor inconveniences, but you're not going to be stuck on the side of the road, which is something that I hear people tell me, like, I want to buy a new car because I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road. It doesn't tend to happen all that much. But here's the kind of counterpoint to that is, how often are you going to spend $7,000 a year on maintaining a car? I mean, I've had very expensive cars that, brand new were $200,000, $300,000, and I've never spent $7,000 a year maintaining any of them. And the ones that were maybe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 a year, I never spent more than maybe $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, if that, maintaining them. So here's my point. The cost of depreciation far outweighs the cost of any breakdown that may happen in your vehicle. And so really, when you're saying I'm buying a new car because of reliability and because of cost, it's really a false assumption, and the numbers don't bear it out as far as actual cost. Now, Again, you may say, hey, I bought a used vehicle and, the engine blew up and I had to spend ridiculous amounts of money, and so therefore I should just buy a new vehicle. But, those are few and far between. And as someone that's owned probably 30 cars, in the last 20 years, I can tell you that just doesn't happen on a regular basis, and it's not a good way to make a decision on it. And like I said, most people, they have kind of a predefined way of thinking, but if you actually break down the numbers and look at what it costs you to fix a used vehicle, you will find that virtually in all circumstances, it is much cheaper to fix the used vehicle if you need to fix it than to buy a new vehicle and take the depreciation. And as you go up that scale, to real luxury cars, that cost becomes even more pronounced. You buy a $100,000 vehicle and you lose $50,000 in 3 years. You will never spend $50,000 repairing any vehicle, no matter what happens. It just doesn't work that way. Now, I know that some of you have, repaired cars and you kind of felt like it would be much easier to just have taken a new car, but I promise you that on a pure dollar for dollar basis, you will spend more on a new vehicle and the loss in depreciation that you ever would on a repair. But like I said at the start, if this is an emotional purchase for you, if you really want the car of your dreams or whatever you want to call it, then there's other things other than finances that come into this. But if you're looking at what's the best financial decision, I always recommend to people buy a used vehicle, maybe 4 or 5 years old. By then, most of the depreciation is done. The car still looks great. It has all the amenities that you want. And oftentimes you will get a better vehicle for the cost relative to buying new. So hopefully this has helped you. See you next time.